Richard.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, I also messed up this time. When you said 1:30, I added 3 hours, so I was thinking it would be 4:30. But I'm also free. I
Ah,
slept in this morning, so I was just hanging around. But yeah, it's a good thing you messaged because I would have not even realized.
yeah, I had 1:30 in my head. The whole day was planned around being able to come back in time, have the chat. So, and then I saw the
Yeah.
actual chat, and I'm like, oh fuck, 1 to 2. Yeah, it happens. I didn't actually
Yeah,
put it in the calendar.
there's some way on Discord you can like post a time that shows up in everyone's like actual time zone, but that's confusing too because like no one's expecting a time to be in their time zone. So that also calls into question like, did the person that post know it was going to be converted, and did they like, uh, so there's no. I feel like it's so hard to communicate times. We don't have like a. There should be some like there should I guess there should be some standard where you can send people like a time link and then they click it and it shows them like a website with like very clearly like what's the time in their time zone. I think there is, but there's
Yeah,
no like easy way. It would be kind of fun to build a website like that. But I guess yeah, it's hard with daylight savings and stuff.
which is nice.
Mm.
Radio check.
Yeah, it was your voice was lagging a bit there. It might be back.
Is it back now?
Maybe intermittent. I can hear pretty well, but I think it might be cutting in and out.
I'll cut off the Wi. The Wi-Fi is pretty shit. So, any improvement?
Yeah, it's funny when cell beats Wi-Fi.
Yeah, not my Wi-Fi. It's I don't know, friend slash landlord.
Yeah.
It's not my landlord, it's Naomi's landlord. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
have
so we're
pretty
using
bad cell actually right now though. I switched to
uh,
like I went from like I had like a mint like 5 gigabyte a month mint plan, which seemed decent, but it wasn't that much data, and then switched to like an unlimited AT&T. But now the data is always a bit slow, it seems. Sending messages or photos, even like just randomly in the city, is like slow. Technically unlimited data, but I guess that's how they do it is they just make it like kind of weirdly bad service.
interesting. Yeah, AT&T is a monster. I'm surprised that they have bad anything. Mint
Yeah, it's
though.
too bad when because it's stuff that you'd never think about. It's like you see the price, you see what they're promising for how much data, but you never even if you think about like maybe it's slower, you can't really test that until you like switch and then get kind of locked in. And
Mm,
there's no way they can't like you can't really hold them to like a certain speed. Like even if they promise like a certain speed, you couldn't really prove to them like they'd be like, oh, it's just in this one area, like whatever you say, and so then yeah, there's like these ways they can alter the deal without really having to try and be transparent about it.
that's why I'll never go under contract. Always pay as you go. And I say to them, if you guys fuck around, I'm gone. You start increasing prices, I'm gone.
Yeah.
If your
It
customer
is
service
getting a
sucks,
bit easier to switch. Like the last two times I switched cell phone, it wasn't so hard. They can, yeah, it's a lot like automatic. It's pretty fast, but it still
yeah,
always feels like a burden because you have to like try to keep the same number and stuff. It's always a bit
per,
annoying.
you just need your account number, apparently. Or
Mm.
you can go into, I discovered, because I took my work's number because I was using my work SIM card.
Oh yeah.
And I have to get back the work
Mm.
phone eventually. So I was like, okay, they might cut it off at any point in time. I found out that if you go into your, I imagine you have an Apple,
Yeah.
you go into your,
Oh, you can see like in the settings there.
yeah, you go to settings, general, about, you go to IMEI. There's like I don't know how many digits, over 10. Mine starts with a 35. So 35949708, blah blah blah. And I provided that, and then they were able to port over the number. And so they stole it from the government of Canada, which is pretty hilarious.
That's
And
funny how like that in a way that's what like a hacker would do if they wanted to take a number or something, and it's like literally that easy. You know, if you just have a phone like in your possession, you can just like take the number and get like a. It's funny how there yeah, I guess there couldn't in some sense be like more security unless like numbers were controlled. Like if a batch of numbers was like assigned through some central authority that they had said like these numbers can only be transferred by like a certain people, but they don't really do that. So then, yeah, any number is like fair game for anything.
mm. Well, they have to get access to your account number or the other code that I mentioned there, which I didn't actually sound off because if I did that, someone could steal my number. But yeah, it actually works. There's a workaround because I couldn't get access to the DAL account number that belonged to the government. No one would give it to me.
Mm.
So yeah, it's the toughest thing is like being able to keep your number, and that's kind of like in my mind what would keep me hostage with a company. But now I can change it, and I asked these. I moved over to Red Wireless, which is under Rogers, because I'm a part of the National Association of Retired Federal Retirees. So you get that when you tap into your pension or something. And I don't know if you've done, yeah, are in it too, but you get deals. And so I'm able to get for $29 unlimited Canada wide and what was it, 15 gigabytes of data? It's 15
That's
gigabytes, yeah. And so far, I haven't had any issues with the reception. I mean, it's the Rogers infrastructure, right?
yeah,
And the one of the most important things for me now, it seems, with the service provider, yeah, quality of the service provided, but their customer service. I'm so fucking tired of being transferred over to the Philippines, where
yeah,
where they barely speak English, they barely
yeah.
understand what you're saying,
And they
and
have like no power probably to do anything.
nothing, not a damn thing.
Yeah,
Can't get you any deals, can't do anything. And like even the basic troubleshooting, like, hey, my internet's not working, it's a fucking loophole for 3 hours.
yeah,
So the fact that Red Wireless, at least when I contact the branch that deals with the National Association, whatever, NAFR, um, I get a Canadian. I get a Canadian and someone who speaks English who can actually work with me on stuff, which is quite cool. And I find the same thing with Well Simple as well. Like when I deal with BMO customer service, anything, yeah, no English.
yeah.
And so with Well Simple, I'm fine. Like I get instant, for a credit card, they want me to wait for like an hour and a half on the line. And I was like, what? So I went into the branch and I said, fucking cancel this credit card. I don't want to wait online or wait on the phone. But every time I call into my Well Simple account, it's like, they'll be like, oh, the wait is over 3 minutes, which 3 minutes is a long time. Versus like when I'm trying to get a hold of Mountain Equipment company Mac, I was online. I was on hold for an hour and a half.
Oh yeah, Mech. Yeah, that's interesting. I guess. Yeah, Mech
Terrible.
always seemed like a decent company, but I guess
They're
they're not exactly like super profit driven. So I can see how they're trying to like shave cost or something by offshoring or
what
whatever.
used to be Mountain Equipment Co-op. Now they almost went bankrupt and sold to a real estate investment
Oh, I didn't
company.
know that.
Yeah, so they're just maintaining the systems. The customer service is horrendous. Don't buy anything online. Jesus. I mean, their platform was garbage before they switched over. But
I
yeah, I know I
wonder
got a
what like they seemed like everyone was walking out of that store with like hundreds of dollars of stuff all the time. Maybe they weren't making so much profit on each item. So I guess that's maybe why their margins weren't like great, but it seemed like that was quite a strong business like for like clothes shopping, all these odds and ends. I wonder what happened. Pandemic, I guess.
the return policy was the problem.
Oh, just like too good.
Too good. And people took
Yeah.
advantage of it. I did. I got no problem saying it.
But
Thing
it was
is,
a
though,
funny, like in the States, there's a place called REI, and I bought like climbing shoes from them, and I like tested the shoes out in the gym, didn't like them, returned them, got like a full refund, but then I decided that maybe I could make do with those shoes, so I went back to the store like thinking I would just buy the same pair of shoes, but it turned out like the exact same pair that I had returned was now like back on the shelf and discounted because I had returned it, and so then I just bought it again for a discount. And I was like, I think I told him too. I was like, by the way, like this is the pair that I returned, and now I'm just like getting a deal on it because I like took advantage of your own return policy, and they're like, yeah, whatever. Uh,
Mhm.
but I feel like yeah, it's you. I guess one thing you'd think is that like once you build trust with like a customer like that, they'd be willing to like buy a lot more if there's like no questions asked. You know, if they feel safe. But I guess sometimes that can backfire in times when yeah, if if everybody's returning and not buying, then
part of the
maybe.
issue that I had with them and the reason why I returned stuff is because the stuff just wasn't good. It was sort of like this in between. Like you can go to Canadian Tire get dirt cheap, heavy shit that's robust or will break, but it's cheap, doesn't matter. But when you start doing like ultralight backpacking, you need to have light stuff that's gonna last, and you're willing to pay the big bucks. The problem is that what Mech is offering, like it's an in-between product that isn't good but also very expensive. And so I was going through their MEC brand, and every item just sucked. And their MSR tent, like that was okay, but I found still for the weight it to be overpriced. Like what I was paying for my like $700 tent, and the fact it still weighed like 2.5, 3 pounds, I'm like, it needs to be less than 2 pounds, and it needs to be really good. So it just I want value for what I pay for. Like I want, like I want to have good quality. And I would try it out once and be like, this isn't it. This isn't worth the money. And unfortunately, it was like that over and over and over again because it's just the quality of the products weren't good. So I ended up grabbing one of their MSR tents. I forget which one. And I just used the poles and the fly and a ground sheet. And the ground sheet was able to kind of keep the poles locked in. And then I just used rocks on the inside because I don't want to carry around pegs. Pegs are extra weight, right? Again, you want to shed everything you can. And you're always going to find rocks. Unless you're in the desert and there's a different way of, I don't know how to actually navigate the desert properly. Um, but like when I go on a coastal trail and you sleep by the beach, there's always rocks. And if you're on the beach, you're not putting pegs in the sand. It's not working. So just there's no fucking point in carrying pegs. So I tried this out,
Mm.
and the poles and the fly and the ground sheet together weighed 1.5 pounds, and that was good. But the inner part of the tent, the zipper and all that stuff that keeps the bugs out, that weighed like a pound and a half on its own.
Mm.
So I was carrying that shit around, but I was like, I didn't need this because you don't. I mean, you're gonna stay warm from your sleeping bag, and then the fly protects you from rain. And there's like no bugs on the west coast. Well, if there are, they like the Germans and they chase after the Germans. So no kidding. Like my German friends got apparently attacked by mosquitoes. I'm like, there's no mosquitoes here. And then they showed me all the bites. I'm like, oh wow, I guess there are mosquitoes here. They
Yes,
just
sure.
don't bug me.
Huh. So then I wonder if like is there someone that could like modify a tent, like take the zipper off and put like Velcro or a couple of ties or something?
I guess so, but I mean the zippers don't weigh that much.
Yeah,
It's
the
more
zippers
like
and the poles and yeah, zippers, poles, and pegs. Like if you had a decent tent that's good, and then you could just get lighter versions of those things somehow.
hmm well, Zed Pack apparently makes like the lightest stuff. I don't know other brands out there. Zed Pack though is also very, very pricey. Um, Patris seems to have found a good brand that is ultra, ultra light. And what's neat is like his backpack is as light as it gets, but it's just the entire thing is waterproof, and you can roll the top and you can compress it down so that you don't have like extra bag floating around. Like there's its frame. I don't remember what his frame was, but both his partner and he and his partner had it like one of these bags, and it was just like really good. And then I looked at their gear, and all ultra lightweight. Their sleeping pads were like I don't even know how they contained air because it was like they're almost transparent. Fuck, it was like nothing to them. But they had the right stuff. They found it. But he also has gone through multiple sets of stuff. He started off with like military surplus gear when I first met him, and his pack weighed over 70 pounds. And then I tried to pick the thing up after the end of our hike, and I could barely lift it up. And I was like, Jesus.
Oh,
So, yeah. I was like, he was dragging ass a few times, but he has since gotten lighter. So, yeah, anyway, mech sucks. I don't like it.
that's funny, yeah, that like any business can go down like a hole all of a sudden. Like like I remember it being decent for like my needs like 20-ish years ago or something, and now I haven't checked in on it since like for like yeah, I guess about like 20 years I haven't paid attention to it, but uh it's surprising that any business seems susceptible to just become bad, even if it's got like because Mech has that whole like membership thing where like everyone's like a member, and it's
Not
like
anymore.
yeah, and so
And you
then I
don't
guess
get
yeah,
that back.
even like all these rules, like you, I sort of think of these rules as like oh these rules can never be broken, and the ethos will always be like the the morals of the business will are like written down, but then it all changes, and then but it's the same like logo, same name, and but then it's all under the hood, it's all just like co-opted or something, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with it because like they had different owners and like franchises, and then there's like no corporate leadership or ownership. I don't know. Like I wanted to make a complaint because the one store, the manager called me, said I was manipulative and deceitful in front of other people and customers. I'm like, what, bitch? Like, what the fuck did you just say to me? Like, like there are like lines and you've just crossed them all. Like, who the fuck? And like I ended up saying like, in this one chick chimed in too, and I was just like, just I looked at her and said, "Shut the fuck up." And it was like, you guys disrespect me and try to cause me to feel shame for returning an item that I called in advance to talk to you about. Like I told you, this fucking item was used. It doesn't. It's not effective. You're calling me deceitful. I told you everything. Like what the fuck? Lost my mind. And I was just
Yeah,
like,
I
you
remember
know,
actually that reminds me there's like another outdoor store somewhere in Ottawa, and like me and my dad were like when I was in high school we were buying like we were buying like cross country skis for me, and we kept getting this like same employee that would like make a bunch of promises about the skis, and then like the next year we'd come in and all the different like the bindings would be different, and they'd have to sell us like a new pair of skis, and we got like angry at that guy. And then like so then like that guy went away, and some other guy like I guess the store owner came over, and like he was like nice to us, but it felt like the kind of employee at those like outdoor stores, they're like they think they're like doing the world a favor by like letting us buy these amazing outdoor products that will let us like camp basically. And so then when you tell them that like this actually sucks and it harmed me, they're like no, that's impossible, like we're amazing, and like we're doing the right thing, and so like you must be wrong, they it's like they have some yeah they have like some idea that they're like morally protected by the things they sell or something.
yeah, I actually experienced something like that with the Smart Wool socks. I used them thinking merino wool blend that they're gonna be good because I've used merino wool. I'm wearing them right now, my icebreakers, and I used them on my backpacking trip, and they destroyed my feet. Like I got fucking hot spots and everything else. I'm like, this is not merino wool. This isn't the proper blend. And 20K in, 27K in, I had 20K to go. And I was just like to Patris and my buddy Justin, I'm like, my feet are infected. I'm in absolute agony. And I said, I either need to bail out now and camp at the side of the road because there's no reception or anything like that. And it's like I'm like, oh, we got to finish this hike today. We're going to do fucking 20K today and like really difficult coastal terrain. And so I did it and did 20K and agonizing every single step. Fucking just kept going. Got to the end. We had a vehicle parked and then took the boots off and aired my feet. I couldn't walk for days. And I go in and I go to return the socks and I quite literally said like, hey, they destroyed my feet. And they're like, nah, there's no way. I'm like, I showed them the pictures of my feet that turned into hamburger. And they're still arguing with me, like, no, it's just you. Like these socks are fine. I'm like, you're fucking don't gaslight me. I
Yeah.
fucking have first line experience using these things. They're garbage. You shouldn't sell them. Anyway, nothing worse than having someone invalidate your experience who doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about.
I was thinking because I have some of these same sort of situations, and I feel like perhaps there's something with like where, like in the military, we have to like follow the rules, and we have no choice. Like often the rules don't make sense in the military, but the whole military operates by like people following arbitrary rules that kind of do harm to them. So then when we finally break free of the military, we enter like the regular society. And then whenever we encounter like a situation where someone is like kind of like gaslighting us or like telling us like, oh, we have an established system of rules and like then they like invalidate our personal experience, you know, where like we're so used to like having no recourse at all. Like you can't talk back to the superiors or whatever. So then when we're put in a situation where it's like this person is not like our superior, they're just like being annoying, and we're like so used to like all that built up rage that it's like now there's no, you know, we're not going to get like charged or put on court or something for like talking back. So then we just we like let loose and like just say everything on our mind and tell them like, you know, this whole thing's wrong. Like it's like you're trying to make regular civilian world like the military where like you can just tell me like what to do and then I have no choice. And uh like I feel like that's sort of almost like a one of the things that we one of the like I guess, you know, like something to for like definitely for me I feel like that's something I work through in like in therapy almost is like, yeah, why do it's like sometimes I notice that like if people question, like I was just telling my boss today actually, like whenever I get the impression that people are like questioning my motives, like if I don't do enough, like if I don't contribute enough like work, if I get the sense that like people are thinking I'm not contributing enough because I'm like trying to like skirt around the system or something, like question my intentions, then it like really triggers me to like feel sad because in the military that's what they always did. Like they always would question like, you know, do you want to be here or something, when all you're trying to do is prove like that you do want to be there and you just could not like meet their arbitrary bar or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I noticed like these weird like situations where uh like I'll all of a sudden like I'll mentally feel very like unstable and that like things are unfair and people are like wrong, uh and I still feel like it's true that like people are not really treating each other fairly or like there's some kind of weird miscommunication. But then whenever, yeah, I think it stems from like the complete like unfairness of the military and how we just have to like repress that, and then we get, you know, we get into this civilian world where, you know, we don't have to like repress it anymore. But uh yeah, it's sort of, it leads to like these weird situations.
Well, I don't know. States different than Canada. Here, I'm finding the monopolies don't give a fuck, and so you're just another lamb for the slaughter, pretty much. And the only power that you truly have is leaving. That's it. It's like fucking you leave and you pay their fucking exit bills or fees or whatever they have in their policy, and then you find someone else that's, you know, gonna offer you maybe a better deal, maybe not. They seem to value new customers and they give the deals to the new customers. Just gotta time the promotions. But anyway, I don't know if you've had to deal with an insurance company, but they're in the business of not paying out. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, well, that's the
And
thing of the recent news, like that, uh, the guy that like assassinated the CEO or whatever,
oh yeah, that thing.
and how it's I don't know, it's been like refreshing to see how many people have come out and said like they have no problem with this kind of violence, like because it really seems like that's what like these terrible insurance systems that like literally kill people like thousands a year are never like they don't seem like they're ever going to change and no one's going to be held accountable. And so it does seem like if occasionally someone like actually gets assassinated, then maybe that starts to like get it through to the politicians and everyone that needs to know like a change has to be made or else occasionally someone's going to try to assassinate someone. And that seems to be like the only thing that works to like show people how much this is harming like the bottom half of the population.
Yeah, the 99%. Well, that's the thing. It's
Yeah.
like, a woman gets raped, killed, or goes missing, or someone gets killed, whatever. They deal with it. It gets routine stuff. But do you see how quickly they found this guy? Because, the victim was a CEO. Like, they probably spool up every single resource out there to find this guy immediately. Because when the normal riffraff rise up and take out the elite, that's unacceptable. The
Yeah.
rules, the laws, they're all made by people in power to control us at the end of the day, to keep us in line, to keep the civilization safe, because it's only during safe conditions that commerce or the economy is able to thrive. So war disrupts that, as we've seen with Russia's war on Ukraine and other conflicts. It destabilizes things. Um, so really, if you have a safe country with the rule of law and people are kept in order, then yeah, businesses can thrive. That's what it's all about. It's all about making the money. And the insurance company, yeah, they what was it? Defend, delay, defend, oppose, or whatever the order
Yeah.
was. Um, yeah, I can see that happening. The thing is like insurance companies, they have the power of law behind them. So I called in to ask, hey, how much would it cost if my partner was added to my insurance? Just as a secondary driver, occasional driver. They're like, well, what's her name? I'm like, I don't want to give you any details. I'm just
Yeah.
curious, like, is it going to be more? And they're like, well, we need to know her name. And I'm like, no, I don't want to give that information right now. I just want to know if you're going to charge me more or if she's an occasional driver and there's no additional cost. And then they just got outright like, we need her information. I'm like, I'm not going to provide it. They're like, well, okay, if you don't provide it, we're going to have to terminate all of your insurance. I'm like, nah, no, you don't. They're like, yeah, you're not disclosing all the information that's required. We don't know your household situation. She live with you? I said yes for this scenario because I'm like, this is hypothetical if she were to live with me. But she, like, this analyst or whatever said, oh, well, she's living with you. Now we definitely need her information. Does she have insurance with anybody else? I'm like, it's none of your fucking business if she has insurance with anybody else, if she's covered. I just want to know if she could drive my vehicle as an occasional driver if she lived with me. And we kept going around in circles, and eventually it's like, yeah, I'm not giving it to you. And then I received this letter saying that by the end of the month, my insurance will be terminated because I haven't disclosed information. And then I call back and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, this is wrong. Like, my girlfriend isn't living with me. We live in separate addresses. They're like, well, you said this over the phone and now we have to take it as fact and we're going to shut you down. And it's going to be a black mark against you. So it's going to be harder for you to get insurance in the future. And it's gonna be more
It's so
money.
like that's so much weirder than I would have expected. Like, uh, I wouldn't
It
have
was,
imagined there's anything like if you call them, I wouldn't have thought there's anything you could say that would they would even care about. But it's weird
any
to see them like taking action like that.
anything, anything. Dude, you don't tell the insurance company anything, nothing. 'Cause they're trying to squeeze every single penny that they can out of their premiums. My God, I mentioned something about like my place being up for Airbnb and all the other stuff, and then like I mentioned like my BC place for whatever reason, just like because the second guy I was talking to seemed to be a bit more reasonable. And then he's like started to go down the rabbit hole of like making sure that I had the proper insurance in place. And he was like forcing it down my throat. He's like, okay, now we need to talk about your BC insurance and like what's there. I'm like, I have tenant insurance. You can see it. You don't worry about that. And he's like asking me questions and make sure I had the right coverage. Like, and then he's like the Airbnb insurance. He's like, you need to have Airbnb insurance and all the other stuff. He tried to force me down another path. I'm like, dude, chill the fuck out. I'm just trying to sort out this one issue about my driving insurance and stuff. And he's trying to like make me get these additional assurances for my two properties. I was like, what the fuck? But he was trying to force me down. I'm like, no, back off. Like, I already have all the insurance I need in place. If I didn't, though, he would force me to get it. Like, he would force me to get these things in place.
Yeah.
So, in the end, they sent me a form. It was this massive, antiquated form. It didn't make any sense. Like, really, it was like a size that I've never seen before. Huge. You had to fold it in four, and there was like four different copies that would happen that would result when you marked the one. And there was no directions on how to complete this thing. And I just threw it in the recycle bin. I was like, well, this is fucking stupid and convoluted. And then I got another notice saying, yeah, your shit's terminated in 2 days. And so I was forced to call back. They finally gave me an electronic version that I could complete. And then I made the guy tell me how to complete it step by step because it was bullshit.
Yeah.
But I had to submit that in order to keep my insurance. And there's like legally you have to like so they have the law on their side. They can force you to give information that you don't want to give. And if you don't, you get canceled. You get canceled, it's a black mark. And it impacts your ability to have any sort of freedom. Because if you can't get car insurance, you can't drive. If you can't get property insurance, any investment that you have with real estate is at risk. Extreme risk. Unnecessarily extreme risk. Like it's the highest risk possible, really, if you don't have insurance. And so they threaten you, they blackmail you almost. Do this or you're blacklisted. And you have to have insurance if you want to do anything in civilization.
Yeah, it's weird when whenever there's something that like people have to have in order for like their livelihood. It's weird when it's like a totally like a private company market where like private companies just decide whatever price needs to be charged for something that everyone has to have and doesn't have a choice. And then and then you just have like these monopolies arise and it gets like as close to monopolies as possible without like triggering like a mass revolt. And then that's just like the status quo. It just stays there. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like if like in terms of like I've been thinking about this recently that like people get like radicalized or something like for different causes. But for me it's like if some political candidate was running on the idea of like an actual class war, then I feel like that's what would rally me up. Like because there's all like it's like I don't support violence or like targeting any groups or whatever. Or like like that kind of stuff, but if somebody was like painting out this picture of like we're just going to start going after like the ultra wealthy who are like unfairly harming like so many people, it would just be like a no-brainer of like yeah, those are the evil people and there's way more of us and they won't budge and like they're doing so much damage that it's just the only moral thing to do is like take them out to prevent further harm in the way that like any society has attacked some group of like terrorists like in any other situation. And so it's weird to me, like I can easily see like, you know, whenever they start rallying people up for that, it's like I'll be totally co-opted. Like I'll just be like brainwashed immediately by whatever they're saying. Uh, and it's interesting how I can sort of see like how they can, like, some political party could like appeal to me directly in such a way where I just like become devoted to them and then uh like do whatever their missions are. And it's kind of crazy. Like it's crazy seeing that in like plain sight of like my own future like radicalization is like such a weird uh thing to identify.
When you're talking about that, I'm not going to call you a Nazi or anything like that, but it kind of reminds me of World War II. And there's a lot to it, you know, the Treaty of whatever kind of fucked Versailles, I don't know. It was an unfair treaty, fucked up Germany. And they basically, you know, the Nazi party focused on the Jews and said, you know, these are the fuckers. They're, you know, I'm not actually, I don't think they're fuckers, but you know, these are the people, you know, are responsible for our hardship. They have all the money, they have all the businesses. They're less than. They're fucking dark haired, big nose, whatever else they said. They're inhuman, you know, and there was a lot of hatred that was worked up over the years to target that population, to wipe them out. And it's like, yeah, they're business people, right? They know how to run businesses. Businesses are where the money is made. It's where the tax breaks are. And it's like that in North America, capitalism, right? If you want to make tons of money, own your own business, and I think it was 1% actually make it after 5 years or something, or after 10 years. The odds are not really good, apparently. So when you start your own business, I think the odds go up if
The
you
other
buy a
thing, though, the
franchise.
other event was like, you know, like the French Revolution. Like, I'm not super versed in it, but like basically they like beheaded all those rich people. That was like the French Revolution or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm. Or like the overthrowing of monarchs and stuff. So it's like eventually people got sick and tired. Like when you just think about kings and queens, it's all a sham. Like it's, oh, I'm supposed to be in power because God appointed me, and yada yada yada. And they use religion to kind of like bind and control people. But basically, all it was is agricultural revolution. Entrepreneurs taking advantage of the situation, providing physical security for farmers who were siloed and vulnerable to attack. And they grouped together and provided physical security through the, you know, the hiring of able and capable men and employing blacksmiths and get your medieval times. And the kingdoms eventually grew and built. And I don't know if they were fucking bored or just, you know, wanted to take wealth from others. And they used religion to promise an afterlife. And, you know, just when you have enough arm people, you have power, and you're paying those people money, the money that you've taken from the farmers or wealth that you've taken from the farmers. But like kings and queens of the old, they're just people who exploited people. They exploited the hard work of the farmers from the wealth from that. And eventually, like, they grew in size and they grew in power, and you know, eventually empires formed. And I just read about the Italian there in 16th century Machiavelli. He made his little pamphlet called The Prince. Apparently, that fucking book was on the bedside table of Napoleon and Hitler and Stalin, even Churchill. And basically, it's saying that our nature to its core is rotten, and that you got to take power, and you got to be cruel. And it's actually, it was never actually scientifically proven to be correct.
Yeah.
When
Well,
studies
because
were
it's weird
done,
that it almost like works. It's like a counterintuitive thing where, or like a contradictory thing where, like if the people that have power are acknowledging that you're allowed to be cruel in order to get power, then that should apply to us too. Like if we if we see a rich person being cruel, we should be able to be cruel to them and use violence to like to take their power for ourselves in order to like do what we believe is good with it. And so it's weird, like it just becomes like a direct thing of like who can do violence to the other. But in today's world, it's like we are so abstracted away from violence, like these healthcare companies and all the ways that like the rich people sort of disenfranchise poor people until they die or whatever. Like that kind of is violence, but it's like enough steps removed that it doesn't look like physical violence. But then like when we do violence the other way, it's much more like directly like a gun or whatever. And then everyone like says let's not do the direct shooting, but it's fine if you just put a couple steps in between. But it's like the poor people that need to take power, they don't have the money to put a couple steps in between. Like they just have to do the direct thing. But so it's like they're trying to say like this one type of violence that's like physical violence is not allowed because that's the only type that poor people have access to. But like all the other types, as much as you want, you can just like imprison and like disenfranchise and manipulate the media and like it's sort of like it's all violence, but they're just trying to outlaw like the one type that's harmful to them, kind of, or something.
Hmm.
But that's what I mean.
Interesting way of
That's
putting
how
it.
you like see this kind of reasoning is like I can't defend against this kind of thought because it's like yeah, it's all a spectrum and like the certain things are right and wrong and like justice must be served and like it's sort of like it all makes too much sense. And then it's like the conclusion feels wrong. It's like we can't just go like start attacking like rich people, but it's like but wait a minute, can we find some reason why not? Because like it would be good to find a reason why not before like the whole class war starts and everybody has no like choice but to contribute.
Yeah, the issue is that the state or the government has a monopoly on violence, right? So really, it is violence or well, it's the power that ultimately controls us, and the threat of incarceration and having all of your assets and everything taken away, so you're no longer a member of society. Like you have to play by the rules. You can be tracked, and that's the issue. Is like we're all a number, so it sucks. You got to play by the rules, and really, the tool that will set you free from it is money. If you have enough of it, you can break free of having to work the 9 to 5. But then if you have enough money, I guess and it's not shielded by corporations, then you're at risk of being sued into the ground and losing everything. So, I mean, there's that
Yeah.
too. So, really, the best way to protect yourself and have wealth is to be surrounded by businesses that you own, legal entities that are all siloed, and that if one goes down, you have others to support you, and they each can provide you with a form of income. And this is something I've created with real estate by investing in the US, which is a fucking pain in the ass for a Canadian person. But my structure is set up so that if I get sued in the States, it can't touch me in Canada. I'll lose whatever's under the LLC,
Mm.
and I'm setting it up so each property is going to be its own entity. And so if I get sued by whoever, I'll just lose the property and all its contents and whatever, and bankrupt that LLC. But it's not going to ripple over and affect my other LLCs, my other
Yeah.
properties. So I siloed things to protect myself, especially in the States.
Huh.
And that's the
Yeah,
thing
it'll
is
be
like if
interesting to see how if all of that works out smoothly like over time. I guess it will. I've heard that's sort of what many companies do.
mhm. So part of me like I don't want power and I don't want to have tons of money, but it's the only way to break myself free from being a part of an institution. And have my own independence is to be financially free. So I don't have to be accountable to anybody, unfortunately, except the government and the laws. But I don't like bullies, and bullies thrive in institutions. It's just how it is. So I don't want to serve them or work for them. I'll work for myself. But I have to play by the rules. I have to have money to do that. Otherwise, I'm at the mercy of the system. Unless I lived on my own away as a hermit, But even then, every fucking square inch of land is owned by somebody. So how do you truly live free anymore? You can't. It's like you have to play by the rules. And again, the rules are written by those with the gold. That's the golden rule. So circling back to, that shooter, the assassin, whatever you want to call him, the terrorist, he rose against it's like, what was it? David and Goliath kind of thing, right? And that person had to be apprehended right away, because if he could get away, then it shows that if you are a shitty CEO, you get fucking terminated, and there's nothing that the law can do because they can't find the culprit. But they put every single resource, I'm sure, into this so that people don't think that. So people don't think that they can rise up and take out CEOs.
Yeah, plus even once they like get to court, like I feel like so many people are on the side of the shooter that it's almost like the court of public opinion. Like at some point a judge will deliver a sentence, but if everyone in the world is like against that sentence, it makes it very hard for that sentence to be like upheld almost. Like the judge has to sort of make a judgment that the people of the country like support. And so I feel like that's what the media is trying to do, is like they're not publishing the shooter's like full manifesto. They're making the CEO look like more of a family man when like he was secretly like separated from his wife. And like they're trying to like manipulate it so that it looks like, this was just like a bad actor that was like, they're even saying that like the shooter played Among Us, and that's a game where you assassinate people. So like he was like they're trying to use all these different like really weak angles to like make it look like shooter bad, victim good or whatever. In order to like prepare people to like hear that like the guy's going to be sentenced or whatever. But I feel like still people are breaking through, seeing that like, no, like the guy who died was bad, the guy who shot him was good, and like and we would, as a people, as a country, we don't want to see the poor like person who just like is fighting for their rights like held accountable in some way. Like I'm sure that there will be like a conventional sentence that gets delivered, but it's weird because there's several instances of murder in the recent past where like the shooter or the killer got off completely free. Like there was that guy that he like drove across state lines with an assault rifle and killed like 2 protesters during like a Black Lives Matter thing, and he got free. The court said, you have no sentence. You did nothing wrong. It was self-defense. And then there was another guy who like jumped on top of a homeless guy in a subway and just like chokeholded him until he died. And that guy recently got off with no sentence.
Was that was that a vet? Was that a military person?
Yeah, that guy. The guy who did it was a military veteran. And I don't know how I feel about that situation. I don't have enough information, but it does support the idea that like in certain instances you can kill for self-defense, even if you willingly walked into the situation, put yourself in harm's way, and then did self-defense when like something dangerous happened to you. Like the guy who went to the protests, like he had no right to be in the protest, but he like went there, triggered a situation where he had to use self-defense, and then got off. So it's sort of like, well, the shooter himself had like back problems. And so I'm sure like this shooter in some way was acting in self-defense of everyone, like 68,000 people a year die from denied insurance claims. And that was a number that I recently heard on a podcast. And so it's like, yeah, like a single dude CEO is killing 68,000 people a year. Then like, it's only self-defense if you take that guy out. And we've seen the precedent of like, yeah, there's many situations where like you're allowed to use like deadly force in self-defense, even if you put yourself in that situation. And so like, and this guy didn't even put himself, like no one has the ability to like decide that they don't have healthcare problems. Like everyone's eventually going to be like attacked by these like organizations that actually do have in phone calls, in writing, they actually try to kill you to like get rid of your claims as like a tactic for profit. And so then, yeah, it's sort of just like all chalked up to be like, this should be like a self-defense issue as we've decided, which like may be the wrong decision that society is making. But it does seem like there's some like angle there. Uh, and so it'll be interesting if there is like a full sentence and everything, because it does seem like that would be an anomaly given the previous ones. Like it would be a case where like, yeah, it's like if poor people kill rich people, then they get a sentence. If it's the other way around, they don't. Uh, that seems to be like how it sort of is playing out a little bit.
It's all fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
So I can never say it. Machiavellianism? How do you say it?
I don't know how. Yeah, I would say Machiavelli, I guess. I don't know how
Yeah.
to.
So that shit only works large scale institutions, countries, empires rather. It doesn't work when you have smaller groups. So like so there were studies done. A scientist decided to say, hey, were there ever studies done? No. All right, I'm gonna try to like prove or disprove this guy's philosophy that you have to be a fucking cunt in order to have power and rule.
Mhm.
And he basically went to smaller groups like camps and what was the other thing that he did? Like in dorms where people kind of like jock for a position or whatever, or small groups of people come together and just like looked. And if you displayed any traits of a Machiavellian, you're like booted, you're kicked out, ostracized. You're an asshole. Now, I get that there are bullies and bullies can take hold because people are afraid of conflict, but overall, in a group that actually wants to come together and form together, a bad apple should be kicked out. Normally would be kicked out.
Mm.
And this is how it used to be before agriculture evolution during our tribal times, hunter-gatherer times, is that, from time to time, someone was elected to a position of power for need, but it was very temporary. Decisions were made
Mm.
as a group, as a collective. Actually, back then, men and women were actually more than likely they're about equal,
Yeah.
depending on the tribe. So it's like we work together. We have this aversion to not being seen as an equal. Like there's thousands of studies demonstrating like we really need to be perceived as equal among our peers and among others. Like we really want that. We don't like not being the same.
Yeah.
And we don't like things that's different than us. There's actually like a term I forget. It's in my notes, but I like even when we're infants, there we have this aversion to what's different, like an accent that's not what we're used to, or skin color, or like we really like what's similar to us right from infancy. Anyway, what I'm trying to get at is with the groups, the smaller groups, we tend to come together. And if we elect somebody, it's because they're good and they're genuine and they're honest. We look for certain traits in a leader, and that leadership position is temporary. And so Machiavellianism, whatever, doesn't really work in smaller groups. Smaller groups is how we are supposed to be. Like we're not supposed to
Okay.
form massive groups. It's sort of unnatural. Civilization in itself is unnatural. The amount of people we have in any given country, there's too many people. And but the smaller group system doesn't work in a larger group because of our aversion to what's different in us. You get too many different cultures, religions coming together. It doesn't work. Sorry. We might, value, the value that a different culture can bring to an area. And we might enjoy the good qualities of it, but we really inherently don't like what's different in us. So it's like you can't put everybody into a melting pot and have us get along and like each other. It doesn't work. So I'm seeing it in Canada at least, where it's like you're surrounded by people, but like you're not. I don't find people welcoming. If anything, they're critical and judgmental. because I'm finding I'm surrounded more and more by non-white people who have their own
Yeah,
thing
I
going on
wonder
here.
about that. Like I wonder if is there some way that we can make it work or does it just fundamentally not work? And like both are kind of interesting. Like it doesn't seem like there's a way. Like you could never like take every category of people and put them in their own country and then it would be like world peace or something like that. Like I feel like there's got to be some way to but it's sort of yeah, we have like this instinct to fear what's different than us and I wonder can we like learn past that instinct or could every student be taught every language, like could we have like the big five languages that every student is taught how to speak five languages and then therefore you can communicate with everybody and feel like you're like them and something like that. It's like very ambitious. It's like could everyone even learn that many languages, but maybe there's some way that we could integrate deeper and but it's actually quite hard. Like it's so hard to learn languages. It's so hard to like take the time to like be slow, with people like the world is so rushed. It feels like there's some way we could sort of smooth things out that society is very like rigid right now. But yeah, it's interesting. Could it work or could it not work?
No, I don't think it can work. It goes against our
What does that
very
mean? Like and but I guess then it's sort of like this in that case, the solution is like uh it is like, moving everyone back to some country of origin. Uh, but even then, like you see, like Israel and Palestine, like there's this huge dispute about like who owns what thing originally, and there's no, it's just like two people not tolerating each other and not having like a place to go back to. I guess it's fundamentally it's like an issue of like physical space. Like there's not enough land for everyone to sort of just like spread out or something.
well, that's the issue. There's not enough land. Too many people. What we need is an apocalypse, unfortunately, to wipe us out, wipe out our numbers, and then what's left is smaller populations of people.
That
And
is so
regardless,
interesting. Like, yeah, it's funny that
regard,
like
mhm.
that's what's interesting. It's like we like everyone says like is responsible for like its own survival, and therefore it's important to like try to avoid a apocalypse. But that's what's so interesting is the idea that like maybe we need an apocalypse. Like maybe an apocalypse would be good somehow. Like it would solve
It would
things.
be.
Like it's such
It
a
would
weird
be.
thought that like it's like the one thing we thought like we put all this research into like how to prevent an asteroid from hitting the planet. It's like maybe we should try to make an asteroid hit the planet, like just to shake things up.
Well, ideally, have a Earth that can still be, lived on. That'd be nice. But whatever takes us out, it's indiscriminate, and some people have natural immunity to whatever it is. It could be some sort of virus, or it could, mm, it could be something. As long as there's no zombies. Um, but just yeah, reduce our population, and the remaining people have an intolerance, and then unfortunately, though, we're going to expand again. We're going to probably overpopulate again. And this is what we do. Our intelligence makes us a threat to any ecosystem that we are part of because we're not a part of any ecosystems. We trump it and we destroy it because we're not balanced. Our greed or whatever drives us to always want more. I I always want more, even though I practice minimalism and like
Yeah.
I try to keep my possessions like the amount of clothes. Like I have two pairs of jeans only and I just bought them. Like I got rid of the other ones because they weren't fitting me properly. They were too tight. Or, like I don't have a huge wardrobe. I don't have a lot of shoes. I don't have a lot of tech. I don't have a lot of things, but in my mind, I always seem to want more wealth. I always want more
Yeah.
power. And I don't know how to stop that. And I think it's because I've learned through my life experience that that's the only way to not be hurt by others is by being more powerful than they are. So that They don't affect me. I actually was
Mm.
talking to my therapist March, April when I was in Mexico, and I was saying to him, you know what I need? I think I just need lots of power and lots of money because there's something called non-hereditary sociopathy that happens if you smash your head and you get brain damaged, and it basically makes you a sociopath.
Mm.
But power does that too. And so there were brain scans done to people with this brain injury, and scans done to people who have power, and people who have power acquire non-hereditary sociopathy. Like they become sociopaths.
Yeah.
And I've just been reading about this where it's like, holy shit. So I was like saying to my therapist, like I'm impacted and fearful of others, and I care about what others think a little bit too much, like where it almost makes it so I can't take my shirt off in public. Is the solution that I would just become a sociopath and I stop caring because people have continued to disappoint me my whole life? I mean, like based off my nurture and the fact that my mom has abandoned me, my father has abandoned me, and I have really only a few safe places left. Should I just not let go of my need for human connection by becoming a sociopath? I fucking stomped him on that one. He had no idea. He's like, oh, that's interesting. But I was like, if I
There's such
had
a weird,
that,
like, duality though, where like if you know, if me or you becomes a sociopath, then we are being a sociopath to someone else, which then like causes them to feel like, oh, everyone, you know, like some other person that's not me or you is like, oh, these people are being a sociopath to me, so maybe my defense is to become a socio. It's like a spreading, like it's like sort of like everyone in the world would have to become like a sociopath to insulate themselves from the other sociopath. And then there's, but then it's like we would want to go the other way. Like if there was no sociopath, then everyone has like this safety. But it's like, yeah, it's like we all have to have guns to protect us from guns, but the threat is only guns or whatever. And so it's like, what if we just got rid of the guns, or then no one would be under threat?
it's the
Uh,
idiots wielding the guns and the fact that they're able to get it. I mean, like, no citizen should be able to buy an assault rifle in the States. Like, assault rifles are not required. Hunting rifles for hunting and killing animals. If you want to be a hunter, sure. You don't need an automatic weapon, for God's sake. You know, like, it's not the guns we need to worry about, it's the people wielding them. And we need to have better measures in to. Anyway, people, I know in the States everything is polarized and you got your people for guns and people against guns, and no one can actually sit down and have a conversation because everything is polarized in the States. Everybody's too emotional. Can't fucking have a conversation without losing their minds. At least that's what I'm getting from Brene Brown. But I'm trying to find here just this part about sociopaths, which I find quite interesting. 'Cause I'm reading the book Humankind. And if you want to change your perspective, because I used to think everybody's just inherently fucking evil and capable of terrible things, we're actually good deep down. Like we're programmed to want to be a part of a group and to just it's this few sociopaths that are out there we got to worry about. Those are the sons of bitches that have taken power. And I'm starting to wonder. Like I know a couple CEOs, and I'm starting to wonder: did they become a CEO and were able to do the job because they were a sociopath? Or did they become a sociopath once they became a CEO because they have all that power?
yeah.
And like I've seen one and I've seen another where I'm not getting sociopath vibes. I'm getting like, oh, this person wants to connect and build community and stuff, which is quite interesting. But I know I'm sure time will tell.
Yeah, it could be like a
But
charismatic sociopath.
could be, yeah, because they can learn. Like,
They could be like
uh,
really like emotionally intelligent. Yeah, to like yeah.
but if I can't feel like I can connect with them if they don't mirror me properly. Because part of our brain is like evolved to mirror other people, and apparently we're the only species that can blush, which is also fascinating. Which can tell others how we're feeling. And so, okay, here are the parts about a sociopath. So it's actually the medical term is acquired sociopathy, a non-hereditary antisocial personality disorder, first diagnosed by psychologists in the 19th century, arises after a blow to the head that damages key regions of the brain and can turn the nicest people into the worst kind of Machiavellian. It transpires that people in power display the same tendencies. They literally act like someone with brain damage. Not only are they more impulsive, self-centered, reckless, arrogant, and rude than average, they are more likely to cheat on their spouses, are less attentive to other people, and less interested in others' perspectives. They're also more shameless, often failing to manifest that one facial phenomenon that makes human beings among primates unique among primates, and that's that they don't blush. Power appears to work like a anesthetic. Is that the right word? Anesthetic? Anesthesia?
Oh,
That
right.
makes you,
Yeah, yelling or something. Yeah.
yeah, that makes you insensitive to other people. And then this is where it talks about the actual tests that were done. And it goes into that piece about, yeah, the brain scans and stuff. So power disrupts what is known as mirroring, a mental process which plays a key role in empathy. We mirror all the time. When someone laughs, you laugh. Someone yawns, so do you. You notice that, right? Like people yawn, I tend to yawn as well.
Yeah.
But powerful individuals mirror much less. They don't feel connected to their fellow human beings. It's like they're unplugged. So it's like they've undone their programming. And it can happen when you achieve power.
Yeah, it
So
seems like I definitely wouldn't. I don't want to like do that to myself. That's why I'm happy to not have power to to avoid that kind of stuff happening.
so power makes them feel more confident and like superior. It makes it because they feel more superior. They just they become tone deaf, but they display confidence. Maybe they don't become nervous when they have to actually like be in front of others and lead others. That's the interesting part. But then if you don't have power, apparently it has the opposite effect. You feel less confident. You're hesitant to voice your opinion, and in groups you make yourself seem smaller and you underestimate your own intelligence. So it's like, what's the balance? It's like, why is having power even necessary? It's like if you don't have it and you are around others with it, you don't seem to want to integrate with the group. And I've kind of noticed that within myself too, because I personally don't feel powerful. And I do become quiet in larger groups. When people start voicing their opinions, I become nervous because, like the way I think is very different than others. I don't know if it's because of my IQ or what I know, what I've experienced, but when people start expressing themselves, I'm like, well, they're fucking dumb. But like, how do I argue something? Or
Really.
it's why do I need to express my opinion? I guess like I kind of there's sort of a conflict that happens where it's like I want to say something because I want to contribute to the group, but then I realize like what this group is talking about is irrelevant to me, and the opinions that I have on it, I don't need their validation. So it's like it's weird. It's like I kind of talk myself out of saying something. I don't know. I don't know if you ever experienced something like that, but that's the way it
Yeah, I
used to
think so.
be. But now, like I I don't feel nervous too often. There's something different now. Maybe it's because I've been out of the military for a little bit. But like I was at this place called Othership where you go into a sauna and then we did some breath work. It was a class. You go into a cold bath and you chill the tea and then you repeat the cycle and it helps you feel euphoria and stuff. And it's
Where's
nice
that
because
place? Where's a place like that located? Like
there's
Ottawa, Toronto.
a couple in Toronto. I don't know about Ottawa. But it's nice because everybody's in their bathing suit, and that's makes you a little bit vulnerable. But then you're kind of in this space, and there's something to be said about which book did I get this from? This was from The Body Keeps Score. Basically, how we connect through humming, song, and dance. And so, in a group, even if our energy is low because we've been traumatized, Like this doctor was surrounded by a group of women who were rape victims in South Africa, or was it Kenya? No, I think it was South Africa. And he was there, and one started humming, and then they all started humming, and there was actually gunshots outside. And later on, they found out 40 people were massacred. And but it was interesting because he's in this compound to be a part of this women's group, and he witnessed one humming, and they were all sad and kind of having a hard time carrying themselves. Their heads are down, and then the others started humming. Eventually, they all started humming together. And they broke out into song, and eventually one got up, started dancing. They all started dancing, and then he witnessed them go from like crestfallen to like they were live again. And so like the power of song and dance and rhythm is incredible. So I thought that was kind of fascinating. Now, why did I go into that?
It does seem like a little bit of a superpower. Like if we could bring ourselves out of depression by like by like humming and singing, like I feel like, because music does kind of have that power. Like if I listen to good music, it does change how I feel. And if I had the ability to make music, then maybe I can sort of do it for myself, like sort of reset my emotions to different states. That
Do you
seems
know
like
do you know what
could be
music
true.
is? Finish your thought, but do you know what music is though?
Yeah.
But finish your
Actually,
thought
no,
first. Sorry.
no, I think that's basically my whole thought. But yeah, in terms of like what music, well, I've heard this thing that when you're watching a movie, the visuals tell you what to think and the music tells you how to feel. So
Yes.
music is in some way connected with feeling.
Mhm. Music too is also the artwork or expression of other people. And when you listen to music, you can feel a sense of connectedness through it. You are joining in with someone's creation, something that they've created and they've expressed. It makes you feel like you're connected to something, even if in that moment you're physically alone. So that is something that, and also rhythm too, the rhythm of the music. We are interesting in that just gets us going. And if you are listening to music and you're, really getting into the groove, yeah, it can pick up your mood. I don't know what's happening in the brain exactly, like if endorphins are released or the reward that happens as a result or why that happens. It's something I'm probably going to look into, but there's something about connecting this through music that makes us feel better when we're not feeling too great. But there was a point for me talking about all the rhythm and stuff, the good doctor and his work on trauma, and I can't remember exactly what it is. There was a point that I was trying to make. I mean, just in itself, the fact that that's a thing
Yeah.
is incredible. And it's neat because I do static dancing now once a month. Naomi hosts that. And there's no drugs, there's no anything. We come together, judgment free zone, and we just give her for an hour and a half. And the DJ has a certain formula of the way tracks go. And starts off chill, calm, gets intense, climaxes, and then eventually calms out again. And it's a way to connect with your body. And when I first did it, it's not like when you do salsa or you do ballroom dancing, there's structure, there's formula, you're supposed to do things a certain way and it's all mechanical, right? That's very different than just moving your body. And you move your body to the music and you're kind of like around others and you feel safe. It lets you reconnect. Like it does something in the brain. I don't know exactly, but it lets you reconnect with your body through movement. So I've experienced this for myself, and I felt connected to all the people in that room. So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's neat.
So
Yeah, I don't think I have a sense that I would sort of enjoy that, but it it's like, it's like hard to find these places. It's intimidating. At first it's like embarrassing, of course, but then if I feel like I would get into it and I would like understand it, but it seems like just something that those kind of things I feel like I wish I had those kind of experiences available to me, but it just seems like you really got to seek them out these days. And I just don't always have like the energy to like find those groups, and like I'm not always ready to like be open-minded and just kind of let myself go. But I know that that's like holding me back in some way. but it's sort of, I always blame it on like society. Like I wish like it should be that across the street from wherever I live, like there should be like a place that will just do that, and then it should be like harder to avoid than to do almost. But it's actually just, it's like so hard to find experiences that are just like good and could even be free or something.
Well, you're in the city still, yeah?
Yeah.
You joined like a Facebook community group? Because sometimes these things get posted in there. Look, I'm terrible at finding things myself. I'm able to find things because of my partner, and she's connected to the community and everything here. But
Yeah.
one of the big groups is the neighborhood Facebook community. I mean, there's always something up on there. And then I also just walk around to local coffee shops, and I find that there's tons of advertisings of like these
Oh
sort
yeah.
of smaller scale events that people are hosting. I don't know how it is where you're at, but at least in Toronto, like there's a lot of cool stuff. Like there's burlesques, yeah. There's like an art museum that's has this new exhibition. There's like there was this Halloween themed thing going on. People with their own private businesses, of course. But there's like stuff that's posted there. And in the Facebook group is the same kind of stuff that gets posted too. So it's like really going out trying to find community and integrating yourself. So I kind of realized something. There's the three components of a healthy lifestyle, right? There's eating well, and then the argument is mostly plant-based diet. And then there's moderate physical activity every day. And there's like social community, belonging, all that stuff. And I'm finding too, it's like you kind of have to, for the physical piece, you have to kind of train yourself. You got to train your body. There's work that has to be done. And when it comes to like cooking and eating well, and even with like the other part, which is that social connection piece, that mental piece, you got to train your brain. You got to keep it stimulated in order to not get bored, and but then the other part too is like there's like this social muscle, the ability for you to like connect with others and to be in a community, to be more tolerant and whatever else. I'm finding that that is something that you have to work on as well, just like you train your body, you train your mind. Because for me, I would silo my relationships and I would bounce around between different groups, usually because there's one or two people in that group that I like. And that was it. And anybody else they hung out with, I sort of tolerated until I didn't want to. And that's very that's that worked for me because I was always in an institution where that could work. But now real like being outside that military world, which is its own little environment, being out here, it's different. When you are a part of a community, like you're kind of a part of a collective, and you got to deal with people's shit. And I
Oh,
hate dealing with people's shit. I can't. Some people just are nothing but drama,
yeah.
and but they are part of the group, and it's coming together as the group that that creates good times, good parties, or just being able to celebrate somebody. And so there's pros and cons to it. And there's some people that really fucking piss me off to the point where it's like I don't want to be part of the group anymore. And for me, it's sort of like this learnt thing. Like I have to practice not burning all my bridges and going scorched earth every time somebody wrongs me, or like wastes my time, or like I'll set up an event and everybody commits and no one shows up. It's like what the fuck, like. But that's apparently the way of this community. Now, personally, if I'm with my community, what I want is like I want a community of explorers, nature enthusiasts, people who want to minimize their carbon footprint and be in sync with the planet, kind of thing, right? Because by connecting with the planet, I think we can take our health back, like barefoot walking and being in nature and breath work and that kind of shit. Like I really believe in all that stuff, and I want to be a part of a group of people who can do all that and also ride a fucking motorcycle, go for a burger, kind of balance it out, right? Like I
Mm.
just and people who are like loyal. You know, they don't have to be perfect, but they can't be just self fucking serving. They gotta be willing to contribute and stuff. Like I'm noticing a lot of narcissists in these communities that just do what they want to do, right?
Mm.
And so, you know, I'm a part of this group. Is it my community? I don't think it's gonna be a long term thing, but I'm working that muscle, like that social muscle, putting myself out there, searching for new experiences. It takes work. It's like going to the gym. It actually takes fucking work to find places, to build the courage up to go with yourself or with a friend. It takes coordination and effort, and like there's a price tag to it. And then sometimes you got to get a costume, and then there's learning how to play again. Because from my career, I've lost my curiosity. I've lost my desire to put myself out there and be vulnerable because when you're in a community of cynical people who are very cutthroat and very armored, you can't be vulnerable. And then if you're curious and you have initiative and you get shit on every time you try to do something, that doesn't work either. So that sort of was like indoctrinated out of me. And I'm trying to figure out how to have fun again. I was invited to this cottage for a weekend and we're gonna dress up like fucking giraffes. And I was just like, this is stupid. Why the fuck would I do that? Why would I go out of my way to get a giraffe costume, to go to this place, to be a fucking giraffe? And, I was being all critical and judgmental and I pissed off Naomi. And then eventually I came back and I explained this is just my insecurity speaking. And I have a hard time being vulnerable and having fun. And eventually I kind of broke through that and I explained myself. And I was like, it's not stupid. I actually envy the fact that adults are able to dress up as giraffes and have a good time. And in the end, I ended up doing it. And I love being a giraffe. And we had a great time. I was hanging out with a bunch of strangers. Naomi, I guess it was her CEO friend who was hosting us, who has his own winery. And then we went on a winery crawl. We went to different wineries as giraffes and entertained a whole bunch of people, a lot of photo ops, and we had cocktails and wine and whatever else. And that was so cool. But my subconscious is so afraid to do that. I was almost like I almost bailed and talked myself out of it. So it's like you got to train yourself and push yourself through the discomfort of being vulnerable and learning how to having fun again. So
Mm. That's a, yeah,
anyway,
it's a
that's
pretty interesting experience, like the way that you went through that, like initially resistant, but then did it, and that's interesting that you had that full circle like experience. I feel like that's very like those are kind of things that like make us grow. I think being able to like come back and admit that our reaction was like over the top at first, and then like integrate and be open minded and stuff. That's all seems
Mhm.
pretty healthy.
I also realized too, like where I'm at, like stress wise, energy wise, affects me and wanting to be social. So everything with my transition with leaving the military has been a nightmare. I actually had the military like steal $4,000 from me. They put me on leave for 7 days when I was on sick leave, and I
Oh,
couldn't even use the leave. And so they basically, when I was leaving, they had me sign that I was going to get the full 19 days that I was entitled to, and I was expecting almost 10K cash out, before tax. And then down the road, I got paid less. I inquired why, and they changed the document that I signed without telling me to take away 7 days. In addition to, they lost my paperwork for me to get financial support for the upcoming 2 years. And so that's been a pain in the ass. And so that's been very stressful. And then there's some other stressors going on too. And, I do the binge eating. I started gaining weight and I'm noticing this. But at the same time, my capacity to have compassion for others is like almost nothing. My patience is starting to go down. And I'm realizing like I don't want to interact. I don't want to be social. I don't want to join. I don't want to connect with people when I'm like that.
Yeah.
And so I found like there's a gear system that I use: first gear, second gear, third gear. And I was in first gear because there was just too much crushing weight on me. Plus the stress of trying to close on the property in the States and all the fucking bullshit with that. So bloody hard to get an account, like a bank account, when you are not on US soil. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. But I'm dealing with so many moving things, or things I can't actually get done because I'm at the mercy of different institutions and bureaucracy. And I was getting overwhelmed, and I saw myself kind of clam up, and I really didn't want anything to do with anybody. So I'm kind of coming back out of that, and I noticed myself wanting to like see people and talk and be social. So it's like just like when you train your body, I find you can overdo it and become too sore, or life can just wear you down where you're not sleeping well enough, and the last thing you want to do is train because you're feeling tired. And I guess the same thing with the social, right? Like you could force yourself to do it, which is sometimes I have to do like as a form of exposure therapy to break through the subconscious barriers that I have. And then there's times where it's like your body's actually trying to tell you to chill the fuck out because you've gone too hard for too long. And so like I'm trying to find that balance, like because Naomi always wants to be social, and it's like I can't keep up. I can't do that all the time.
Yeah.
And so it's like when I actually show up to somewhere for somebody, I want to be there with a smile and not feel like I'm forced or anxious because I'm worried about the next thing or got too much on my mind. Like I actually want to be calm, present, to enjoy the company of that person I showed up for. And so I guess it comes down to like also knowing yourself and respecting your own boundaries, which like that also takes practice and training.
Mm. Yeah.
So all interesting stuff. I'm learning a lot as I go, and books are definitely helping me out. I'll tell you that. Anything else you want to share, buddy?
No, I think we're good. Yeah, we can wrap up.
All right, man. I appreciate the chat.
Yeah, I'll see you next time.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.